I feel seeing this Y2K millennium tech inspired look come back. So Aquarius really is technology, humanitarian, like we talked about last week. And that is a lot of the style and fashion coming back in Millennium. It was a very in touch with the times energetically, because in that Millennium, it was newness, revolution. Again, very Aquarius, very Pluto in Aquarius type of things. Shifts, changes in how we are human. And technology was a big shift in how we are as humans. Now we are seeing all of that come back, right? Not just the fashion of Y2K, but really the energy of it. We are feeling that revolution energy with Pluto and Aquarius. We're feeling the change. We are feeling our human communities changing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Magic and Media, the podcast brought to you by the Vibe Collective and me, Carly D, a reader and manager here at the Vibe Collective. This podcast blends magic with the current pop culture news and moments to show you that magic is all around us every day. We just have to look around and find it. So we find the metaphysical and magic in the world around us and share it with you. Welcome to today's show. We've got quite a few interesting and, of course, very relevant topics to go over. So we are going to jump right in. Magic and Media's first story. Lots of us have been hearing about this. The FAA flight cancellations. Very prominent right now, especially in the US with the government shutdown. We are seeing a big rise in the percentage of flight cancellations. How does this connect to the magic around us? Enter November 9th, this past Sunday, Mercury Retrograde. So, we've heard about Mercury retrograde over the years. The Mercury is in Gatorade and the microwave, all the jokes about it. But let's break down what Mercury retrograde really is and how it affects us. So Mercury retrograde is when the planet Mercury goes retrograde, and Mercury controls technology, travel, communication, lots of elements like that. So that is where we kind of see some stuck moments, some pauses, some delays when it comes to those things: technology, communication, travel. So the fact that this FAA flight, like cancellation stuff, is happening during a Mercury retrograde could not be more fitting. It is quite literally affecting travel for so many people. And another thing we see a lot with Mercury retrograde is technology, but we'll get into that in a second. So first, with Mercury retrograde affecting flights. Anytime Mercury retrograde comes, which it lasts about 3 weeks, happens 3-4 times a year, when we are in these periods of Mercury retrograde, I always tell people to just take deep breaths, have a plan B, C, D, E, and F if you can, and be prepared for delays. So when they happen, you are more astrologically aware. You can kind of say, all right, well, we're in a Mercury retrograde. So what are my plans? What can I do? And again, have some patience, take that deep breath, take that pause. So that way you can really USA and figure out what to do next. So my biggest advice, like I said, for Mercury retrogrades is to just take things slow and be prepared. Be prepared for things to not go exactly as you planned. And one of my favorite kind of metaphors for Mercury retrograde is it is like walking through mud. You're going to get there slower. You're going to get there a little more dirty than you expected, and it's not going to be fun. It's probably going to feel more like a trudge, but we will get there. Do not let the Mercury retrograde upset you so much that you get thrown off your square. Let this be your kind of warning. It just started on Sunday, right? Today's just the 12th, so we have time to prepare ourselves for the rest of it, but we will get there. So do not be too discouraged. If you have some holdups with your own flights, with your own travel, then again, look around, make sure that you know what airports are around you, where you could be rerouted, and get those secondary plans ready to go. So that is really our first big story of where we are seeing magic in our lives and in the collective around us with these flight cancellations and Mercury retrograde. Could not be more timely. Now, another thing I saw this week, and I'm curious if other people have experienced it, is technology and Mercury retrograde delays there. Now, I went to the gym on Sunday and all their systems were down for taking transactions and purchases. Technology, again, affected by the Mercury retrograde. The next day I went out to lunch and same thing. I went to go pay with my card at the end of lunch and they were like, it's just going to take maybe an extra 10 minutes because we had to reboot our entire point of sales electronic system. So it might just be like an extra 10 minutes before we can run your card. Of course, I was like, yeah, that's totally fine. And we ran the card, everything was good. Their systems ended up going back up. That is a big Mercury retrograde kind of example right there of, is it the end of the world? No, I just had to sit for an extra 10 minutes while they rebooted their system and could take payments again. But again, an unexpected delay, even if it's short. So if you have big stuff coming, just be prepared, have those plans in place. Again, Mercury affects communication, technology, travel are the main big three. So even when it comes to communication this week, I want to touch on that this retrograde is happening conjunct Mars. And Mars is a very fiery planet. Think like impulsive, rage, passion, very red fiery planet, right? This midweek that we're in right now, so really starting today, like the 12th, we are going to feel that kind of Mars energy conjuncting it. That's when I feel we need this kind of warning about communication. If you are in a heated conversation, argument, anything like that this week, give yourself the necessary time to respond. Do not fall victim to the Mars conjunct Mercury retrograde trap. So again, this is the magic happening around us. This is stuff that we can be aware of, that we can kind of notice when we're getting to that place, maybe later this week, of anger in a conversation or an argument. How can we pull back a little bit, be astrologically aware, take a deep breath, think about what you're saying. Don't say things to hurt people. Don't say things out of anger. Really practice patience this week when it comes to communication. I cannot stress that enough. With that Mars conjunct hitting us, make sure you are embracing the deep breaths. I have in my notes several times today to remind everyone, deep breaths, deep breaths. So if you have a moment like that during this retrograde, just hear that message. Deep breaths, deep breaths. We will get there. We will get through this, but not by freaking out, right? So find your peace, be patient, have the plans in place. Retrogrades can feel like an arrow being pulled back, gaining momentum, but then they're ready to shoot off when Mercury goes direct. That is the energy that we are going to be feeling for really all of the rest of November. This retrograde will last until November 29th. So pretty much until the end of the month. It's from the 9th to the 29th. So again, that 3-week kind of 20-day cycle of the Mercury retrograde. If you feel like things are just kind of slow for you this month, things aren't hitting no matter how hard you push, know that a retrograde does slow things down. Like we said, walking through the mud, taking a little longer, but we will get there. Embrace that feeling of the arrow. Right now, you're just being pulled back. So when December starts, we can shoot through and really attack those goals and things that we want to get done. Mercury retrograde has the prefix re, right? So revisit, reassess, reanalyze. Go back and take note of things that maybe you've let, slide, or things that need your attention more, or Mercury retrograde is a great time to go back and really revisit old things. So, not the best time to start something new. Don't put pressure on yourself to start something new. If you are starting a new project, that is okay. I feel that's a big misconception with Mercury retrograde, to not start anything new. And it's not saying that, it's just saying be mindful, and you will probably finish up or revisit some things that have been on the back burner. So that is our first story, Mercury retrograde. We hear a lot about it. There is so much more you can kind of go into and debunk with it. So go on our page. We do have some more kind of videos about Mercury retrograde, what it can bring, what you can do. But that is really where we're seeing it in media, obviously, is with these FAA flight cancellations. That is so Mercury retrograde, like could not be more Mercury retrograde. So that is our first story there. If you have any questions about Mercury retrograde 2 and how it affects you personally, book a birth chart or astrology reading with Carly L., the Vibe Collective's astrologer. She is amazing and pretty much predicted several things that have already happened to me in 2025 from my birth charts. Again, if you want to know how this is Mercury retrograde is really affecting you, book a session with Carly L. Now we are going to kind of take a turn into fashion. So obviously fashion is all around us. We see trends, we see them come and go, we see things change in popularity, but something we are all seeing a lot more of, especially us millennials probably noticing, is Y2K fashion is back and it's louder than ever. So this nostalgic trend that really defined the late 90s, early 2000s has returned to the spotlight. This blends kind of the futuristic flair with retro vibes. Think low-rise jeans, baby tees, chunky platforms, graphic tees, rhinestones, that, juicy couture tracksuit, that Dooney and Burke purse. And today we are seeing more of a revival, but with a modern twist. Some of these pieces now would even really be considered vintage from the 90s, but we are again seeing this return to the vintage, return to Y2K, and that millennium aesthetic. It is like that tech inspired. We saw that in the millennium, right? In that Y2K era, it was all kind of about technology. Computers and the internet were just getting started. Now, trends really do in fashion take about 20 years to resurface, right? So we're in 2025 now. It's been about 20 years since that Y2K millennium fashion, and that's why we're seeing it come back. I do want to touch on the fact that the nostalgia of this is huge, right? This is the energy around us. This is the stuff we're all kind of seeing, feeling, and noticing. While it takes 20 years for these trends to kind of come back, know that there is a shift happening with Pluto that we talked about last week a little bit with our Cat's Eye portion. So if you're into Cat's Eye, check out our episode last week. We talked about how this shift in Pluto last year kind of affected what we're seeing with Cat's Eye. This same shift, from Pluto to Aquarius that happened last year is really where we are also, I feel, seeing this Y2K millennium tech inspired look come back. So Aquarius really is technology, humanitarian, like we talked about last week. And that is a lot of the style and fashion coming back in millennium. Like we said, tech inspired, silver, rhinestone, flashy. It was a very in touch with the times energetically, because in that millennium, it was newness, revolution. Again, very Aquarius, very Pluto and Aquarius type of things. Shifts, changes in how we are human. And technology was a big shift in how we are as humans. Now we are seeing all of that come back, right? Not just the fashion of Y2K, but really the energy of it. In 2025, we are feeling that revolution energy with Pluto and Aquarius. We're feeling the change. We are feeling our human communities changing. Lots of different stuff happening there. So with the Y2K fashion coming back, I want you to not only think about the fashion that's coming back, but the energy and intention that comes kind of with that time. Revolution, change, humanitarian efforts. Let's lean into that as we kind of are feeling that in 2025. Where is technology helping us? Where is it hurting us? Where can we help our fellow human? Where is our fellow human hurting where we can step in and help? Let's really tap into that age of Aquarius that we are in right now, with Aquarius being in Pluto, and think about, even if you are old enough, which I feel so weird even saying that, but if you are old enough to remember, like that time, I encourage you to tap back into that energy, right? If you were in your teens, in the early 2000s, and you want to pull out that old, juicy tracksuit and that Tiffany's necklace, maybe it's good for you to lean into that nostalgia and tap back into that time a little bit. There's, like I said, why I chose this topic is it's something that is still developing, but we are comforted by nostalgia and adapting our original styles, especially if you're a millennial, to kind of tap into that inner child or that inner teen. There's a lot of work and cool stuff that can happen there energetically for yourself. And I think even again, that newness, revolution, time of change energy we felt in the early 2000s, we're feeling that again now. So where do you want to see the change, right? In your own life, in your community, and everything around you. We've talked before about how we are in a 9-year right now in 2025. This is a year of endings, closings, finishing chapters, which means we have so much newness coming in 2026. So where do you see the newness? Where do you see things growing for you? Let's really start to pay attention to that energy of revolution, of newness, of transformation, because that is what's happening right now, right? We are ending stuff in 2025 so we can start anew in 2026. So as you see this Y2K fashion happening, think about the energy around you and the changes we're seeing, okay? I think that fashion definitely influences the collective. And when we're seeing shifts in trends like that, especially going back to certain trends, we have to kind of go back to those times and tap into like the energy that we were in there. There is so much spiritual work and fulfillment, I feel, that can be done when we go back to our younger selves, to those different versions of ourselves and revisit them. It just kind of deepens that relationship with self to tap in, to what that inner child and what that inner teen was up to, what they were doing. So if you're feeling that nostalgia right now, let us know how. What is coming up from that time that you're connecting to again? I even want to mention on that topic, talk about millennium culture, Hilary Duff coming out with a new single last week, Mature. Hilary Duff was huge in the early 2000s. 2001, 2005 era was really like huge Hilary Duff times. And now look, she's back releasing new music in 2025. Again, we're seeing Y2K. So see where that shows up for you. This week, we also had 11/11, so November 11th. Today is the 12th, so this was the energy that we were in yesterday, that 11/11. We all are kind of aware, of course, of the Make-A-Wish of 11/11, right? When you think of 11/11, I think as a collective in media, in the news, it's it's 11/11, make a wish, is what everyone says. But I want to tap in a little bit more to what 11 means as like a numerology, connection, what it really means in numerology, spiritual energy. Wish fulfillment, like we talked about, but it also can represent fresh start, new beginning, synchronicities, and trusting the universe. So, again, leaning into that 1 year we have coming in 2026. Be open to a fresh start. Be open to new things. That is the energy that 11/11 really holds, right? Wish fulfillment, but also it's a 1, right? So if you were seeing 111 a lot yesterday on 11/11, that is again, fresh start, new beginning. And because we're really At the end of 2025, we are starting to think about what new stuff is going to happen in 2026. So, really constant in, our last story and this one is the numerology we're going through with the end of this year. 1111 has this newness, right? So if yesterday you were thinking about it, what's new? What could I be building? That is very on time. It is all of that connection with one and the number one. Now we are going to talk about what you can do this week to really tap into your own numerology. So 1111, like we said, is one of the most popular numerology really examples. It is a portal, it is fresh start, it is wish fulfillment. It has a very magic energy around it, if you will, magic in media. So there are other angel numbers. That is really what they call 111, 222, 333. So we're going into our little numerology here. We had 1111 this week, that newness, fresh start, new beginnings. Got me thinking about numerology in general. I do feel we all kind of have a lucky number, right? So this is this week's What Can You Do? I want you to think about your lucky number or what could really be your lucky angel number and what that means for you. So you might not be someone who sees 1111 or 111. Maybe you're seeing 222 or 666, which is not demonic like everyone thinks. We're actually going to go through all the angel numbers and explain what they mean and how they may connect to you personally. Numerology is also like this huge, huge thing, right? So we have the personal year, which is your numerology, your number based on your own birthday, your own birth dates. Then we have our collective year, which is the 2025, like we've been talking about. That collective year number affects all of us. So know that numerology does go really, really deep. And we are in this podcast just touching on little stories or little ways we are seeing numerology and how you can adapt it more into your life. So if you are more interested in learning about, your personal year number or what your power number might be, those are things that you can look up and dive deeper into. But we are going to be talking about really just a little bit of numerology here. And I say that because if this speaks to you, right, if you really are into numerology, I encourage you to learn more, right? Learn more about what interests you. And a big part of why I wanted to start this podcast is because magic is all around us, but there may be certain things that speak more to you or that you connect to with more. And those things I encourage you to pay attention to and lean into and learn more about because there may be more messages for you there. There's lots of what we call modalities in the metaphysical. Those modalities would be things like numerology, astrology, tarot, Reiki. They're all different ways we can kind of channel this information, this energy, this magic around us. Numerology is just one of them. So this is the second time we've talked about numerology on this podcast as a story, and I'm constantly bringing up that we're in a 9-year because its energy is so prevalent for all of us right now. So, like I said, if numerology speaks to you, look into it more, find out what your personal year is, and really see the other ways it affects your life because astrology may not be for you. Tarot may not be for you, but I hope that this podcast opens your mind to other ways you can tap into the magic around you in a way that serves you, makes sense to you, is fun to you. We are all different people, so it's not a one size fits all when it comes to magic, when it comes to using these modalities. So I hope you're learning about more modalities, different things. And if something interests you more, by all means, educate yourself. There's so much information out there about all these different modalities. So, this is what you can do this week to find some of the magic around you. Find what your angel number is. And when you see your angel number, make a wish or say a prayer or set an intention. That to me is the magic of angel numbers is it really just kind of catches me in the middle of the day to like center for a minute and set an intention. And what I mean by that is, let's say 222 is your angel number. You're seeing it everywhere, right? On license plates, on address like markers, on the clock. That acknowledgement of seeing it all the time, maybe there is something that you need to be paying attention to in that moment. What are you thinking? What's happening around you? And it really helps us to be aware and intentional. So that is why I love angel numbers, right? Helps you to be intentional, helps you to really be aware and pay attention. It's a good way to kind of tap into intuition as well, in that aspect of, pay attention to what you're thinking, what's happening around you when you see those angel numbers. But one of the easiest ways I feel to embrace them is to simply like set up an intention, send up an intention, or send up a prayer when you see them. So if I see 1111, one of the things that I could wish for is, I wish to have more flow this week, right? I see 1111. I wish I can go with the flow a little bit more this week, especially with Mercury retrograde, and just seeing that number, right? Seeing that 1111, acknowledging that, acknowledging, hey, let me like set a wish or an intention of how I can show up for myself. It just catches us in those moments. So I hope that that makes sense, but I really think that these angel numbers again, are all around us, right? Magic and media, it's all around us. When we are seeing a commonality or we're seeing a trend, I hope that it can really kind of wake you up to what's happening around you. So we are going to go through the angel numbers, what they mean. So if you are seeing any of these angel numbers, then you can kind of tap into what that means for you. So starting with 111. Manifestation, new beginnings, a reminder to focus on your thoughts, and you are attracting what you think. Our thoughts create our reality. That is one of the biggest messages I give in my tarot readings. So even that 111, very similar to 1111. What are you thinking about? We want to manifest what we want to happen, and worrying about what we don't want to happen is often a way to manifest that. So put your intention, put your thoughts on what you are attracting or what you want to bring in. Do not focus it on the negative. So if you're seeing 111 a lot, that may be even a message for you, Pay attention to your thoughts. What realities are you creating with your thoughts? Are you manifesting your worries or are you manifesting your wants? Now, 222 is balance, harmony, and alignment. Trust that things are working out as they should. A lot of the time when I've seen 222, it is a trust, right? Of finding balance, finding harmony, but we're needing to find it because there's been a little bit of an imbalance. So if you're seeing 222 a lot, I do see that a lot of the time as my trust number, my trust angel number. Trust that things are working out. Trust that we are finding balance and harmony, but make sure that you're doing the stuff that you need to do for yourself to encourage more of that balance and more of that harmony in your life. 3-3, creativity and support. Your guides are helping you express yourself. So if you are feeling drawn to the creative side and you're seeing 3-3-3, again, lean into that, pay attention. Mind, body, spirit is also kind of like connected to that 3-3-3. So I see it a lot of the time as those things, mind, body, and spirit, are being connected at that time, right? And I do feel when we're connecting our mind, body, and spirit, it allows creativity to flow more. We feel that support from our guides that they're saying with 3-3-3. So if you're seeing 3-3-3 a lot and you're an artist or you're someone who creates, not just artists create, obviously lies in a lot of different things, maybe you need to lean more into that, right? Into what you're creating and what you're making, and know that you have support from your guides on this project. 444 is my angel number. It's protection and guidance. So when I see 444 a lot, that's your angels, that's your ancestors, your passed on loved ones cheering you on, telling you everything is going to be okay and that I'm looking out for you. It is grounding, supportive energy. Love 444. Even if you feel like you want to tap into that energy more, maybe write it down and set it on your desk or set it in your car, and just know that you have that divine protection of your angels and your guides around you. So 444 is that protection and stability. Again, with the stability is four, right? Four pillars, foundation. A lot of the time in numerology and in tarot, four represents structure and foundation. 555, train, change and transformation. So big shifts, big change, 555. I also notice a lot of people see 555 when change is needed in your life. So if you're avoiding a necessary change and you know it, I wouldn't be surprised if you're seeing a lot of 555. It's asking you to change, it's asking you to pay attention to those things. On that same coin, if you are wanting to bring more change into your life, pay attention to that 555. Channel that, write that down on a piece of paper and put it next to your desk or put it next to your gym bag or in the kitchen. Where are you trying to create change? 55 is an angel number to tap into change and the positive transformations that come from it. This is growth. When we're going through change, it may be scary, it may be a bit of contracting and expanding, but that is the only way we grow. Now, 666 is that imbalance. So, we got to talk about how it has a reputation for being a demonic or evil number. I do not feel that about 666. It's really, to me, means imbalance or that things need to get back on track and get rebalanced. So this is a kind of similar to 555. Are you ignoring change? It's like if you're ignoring the change so much, you're going to get pushed into that 666, which is a nudge to realign your thoughts. Don't lean into fear, right? Don't lean into anxiety. Lean into the growth that can come from change. Often, if we need to rebalance ourselves, that means that something needs to change. So if you're seeing 666 a lot, don't be scared, but don't be scared of change. It means it's necessary right now. It means there is some sort of imbalance that we need to pay attention to. Do not ignore it. If you're seeing it, like I said, don't be scared, but don't be scared of the growth that's waiting on the other side of that hard change. 7, divine luck and spiritual awakening. I love 777. It has a very auspicious energy. It's very lucky in a lot of ways. We think of, that slot machine like 777, but it is another trust one for me. So if you're on a path and it is a little rocky, it's getting a little hard, and you're seeing 777 a lot, trust the timing, right? Trust that things are going, things are moving, and you do have luck on your side. You just have to keep going. It is a big trust one for me, like I said, and I've seen it connect a lot to trust and finances, right? So if you're going through some financial stuff and you're seeing financial struggles even, and you're seeing 777 a lot, just trust that the finances are on their way and it's going to work out for you. It is a lucky number. 888, abundance and success. So when we see this, it means the money's going to start flowing, right? Personal rewards, financial rewards, again, very auspicious, very lucky. So if you are seeing 888, get your eyes open and ready to count those dollar bills, to count that like prosperity coming in. Very auspicious, very like well-rounded. 8 and represents like infinity, if you turn it on its side, and there's a lot of connection with that in the metaphysical even. So it is this kind of like infinite joy almost, right? With 888, it's a very positive, very auspicious number. 999. We've already talked about it several times, even in this episode. Completion, closure, endings. So if you're seeing a lot of 999, again, we are in a 9 year in 2025. Be ready for closure. Be ready for completion. Be ready for chapters to be ending so new ones can begin. If you're seeing any of these angel numbers around a lot, like they're haunting you or stalking you, pay attention to it. What message is trying to come through? What can we change? Where can we improve? This is the kind of stuff that really does it for me when it comes to metaphysical and spiritual stuff, because to me, it really is about quieting our mind a minute so we can pay attention to the energy around us before we make our next moves. All right? When we are aware and self aware of what we are doing, what's happening around us energetically and spiritually, we make better decisions. And I say that with confidence because when I ignore the messages that are coming through me by way of, stuff I see in media or by angel numbers, I almost always can clock that I ignored that. And it was really obvious, right? So start to become aware of the energy around you and the little messages that are coming through. That's what you can do this week to really tap into the magic around you. What is your angel number? What are you seeing often? Or when do you notice that you're seeing different angel numbers in different times in your life, right? Start to make note of that. Start to pay attention to it because messages and magic are always around us. We just have to quiet our mind enough to hear them. And if I can spread one message from this podcast, it would be that, right? When we take the time to really sit with our thoughts and be aware of our relationship with self, the choices we're making, the messages around us, we can kind of move with more peace, right? Because we are paying attention. So pay attention to what's happening around you, tap into those messages, and as always, find the magic in your own life. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Magic in Media. As always, if you ever have any questions, shoot us a message over here at the Vibe Collective. Thank you so much for listening. Be patient, watch out for Mercury Retrograde, and have a great week.